Let me ask you a question. Do you think that other people find work easier than you do? If the answer is even a hesitant maybe, this episode is for you. I met with a group of senior HR, culture and L&D leaders a few weeks back to talk about the future of hybrid working. And one of the things that came out of it was the fact that we don't see how our colleagues work. We don't see the process that our peers follow to get things done. And that has a real impact on our learning, our development, and also how we feel about our workday and our progress. So that's what I'm going to cover in today's episode, how hybrid working can create this illusion of perfection in our peers and colleagues, the impact it can have on your workday, and maybe some considerations you can bring forward to improve that if this applies to you. So let's talk first of all about the impact that hybrid has. Now, this applies if you are hybrid working, if you work in a distributed team, if you work remotely fully. Basically, if you don't work side by side with your colleagues most days, this applies to you. And what we see is that we're focused more and more on the output. There's this great phrase going around, focus on the outcome, not the hours. And while I like that, we're missing the middle part, which is the process, the work that has to be done to get the outcome. Now, if you're not sitting next to your colleague, you don't see the fact that they had to redo their slides 5 times. You don't see the mistake that they made in the report that they had to fix. You don't see the wrong decision they made that they had to then correct a few days later when it got escalated. All you see is the tick, is the final outcome, is the green status on the project. And that can make it seem that other people are more efficient than you are, that they've got it together more than you are, that they're more productive than you are. And that false illusion is very, very dangerous for a few reasons. So the first reason is that if you have this idea that other people find work easy when you go to take something on, let's say you have to take over a new project or even you have to create a new report. If you see others doing it seemingly easy and you find it challenging, then immediately you're going to put the brakes on. You might be tempted to procrastinate and say, I don't even want to get started because I don't know how to do it. I don't know if I'm going to get it finished. And surely there's somebody else who can do it better than me. But what if you saw the other people's fumbles and mistakes and redos along the way? Then of course you'd be like, well, okay, it's a challenge. It's tricky, but sure, they were able to figure it out. Maybe I can. And so when we only see the clean lines, the clean output, it can lead us to procrastinate on things that we're asked to do that we find challenging. We don't see other people overcome the small challenges in the workday. And so we think they have none. And that's very, very dangerous. Now, the other impact can be this idea of perfectionism. And what I mean by that is if you think that other people work in a clean line where everything goes to plan, there's no mistakes, there's no redos, there's no Googling or asking for help, then you assume that you should be doing perfectly as well. And if you don't, it might cause you stress, it might cause you worry, it might cause you to skip your lunch break and keep on going to push through, rather than accepting that, honestly, on-the-job learning is a huge part of the job. All right. And then also, you might not see stuff that comes easily to your colleagues versus stuff that they challenge with. So, for example, you might have a colleague who's really good at presentations. Maybe they're quite a visual person, they're quite creative, and so it comes easily to them. And they spend maybe, 20 minutes on their project update presentation. And then you don't see that the other colleague that you work with is not good at that at all. They're a numbers person. And it took them 10 hours. So you don't have that comparison. You don't have that kind of insight to then let you see where you sit alongside them in terms of skill, capability, interest, and all those things which lead into how much time it takes you to do similar work. What this results in is you might be putting a level 5 out of 5 effort into everything in order to try and achieve the same standard that you perceive everybody else is working to. And that, my friend, is dangerous because we can't give our all to everything all the time. A big part of work is understanding where you can make choices around the level of quality that needs to be delivered, the level of efforts that you need to put into it. Otherwise, you're going to burn yourself out. So there's a great phrase I came across called satisficing. And it's this idea that, for some things, you can decide that you're going to choose the option that you'll be satisfied with. So it might not be your optimal choice. It might not be the perfect choice, but it's good enough. Okay. And if we see that compared to our peers, we've got different skills, capabilities, and we do different things well, we might choose that in some areas for some tasks, good enough is good enough, okay? And you'll be satisfied with maybe putting in a 3 out of 5 effort for that. And then on the other hand, you'll be better able to distinguish what parts of your work need your 5 out of 5, where excellence is required, where you must go above and beyond and put in those extra hours, okay? But if all you see are perfect outputs, you will assume that everything has to be absolutely perfect. And so you won't even make the distinction around what needs my 5 out of 5 and what needs my 3 out of 5, because you fall into the trap of thinking that everybody else on your team is working 5 out of 5 all the time. And so now you might be thinking, Niamh, I get you. I've been in the situation myself where I've been agonizing over a piece of work and it seems to come so easy to my peers, but what do I do about it? And this is where it comes to intentional learning on the job if we're not working in the same physical location as our peers. Long sentence now, in fairness, but intentional learning, intentional development, peer to peer. We have to start talking about the messy middle. We have to start talking not about like the big mistakes. So in a lot of companies, they do a lessons learned when there's a big mistake, which maybe have an impact on a customer or on revenue, on whatever else is an important metric for the company. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sharing the daily mistakes, the daily struggles, the stuff that you have to figure it out. So it could be as simple as when you're in your team meeting having what I call the blooper reel, where I say, oh my God, I had to spend an extra 45 minutes on that spreadsheet because I put the wrong formula in and it skewed the whole thing. And then my colleague will say, well, if you did that, you're not going to believe what I did. I spoke to XYZ, the conversation went so badly and I had to go around the houses to fix it. And just this sharing of our mistakes, of the things that we're not good at, okay? Not to put each other down, not to say that we're not good at our job, but to show each other that we're all still learning on the job. And from there, maybe asking for help. So if I'm struggling with the formulas on my spreadsheet, if I say that out loud, one of my colleagues may say, I can help with that. And this now is the key. When we start sharing the imperfections of our work with our team, with our colleagues, with the people who we work with day by day, we invite help in. And that's very important because what I see in a lot of companies, especially newer hires, people are afraid to ask for help because they think they should know, especially in the world of AI and, everything is searchable. They feel they should either know the stuff or they should be able to find it out for themselves. And so instead of tapping into the internal knowledge base, the experience of their peers, the lessons that have been learned, through the team, they're keeping their heads down. They're going into ChatGPT or Gemini, Copilot, whatever it is. They're trying to figure it out. They're struggling. They're stressing. And it's just not necessary. It's just not necessary. And even if they do find the answer that way, it's not going to be as rich as the answer that they get from experience. So if you're a manager listening to this, I really want you to think now about how your team shares the work, not the output, but how they share visibility on the process of their work. Is it, as I said, having a blooper section in meetings? Is it doing pair working where you both open up a Teams meeting, you both work on your individual bits and pieces, but you chat about work as you're going along and you show each other the mess as you're going through it? Is it about, being more intentional about when new hires come in for them to have somebody who they can go to and for that person who's more senior to openly share that they are not perfect at their job? And even if you're not a manager, if you have colleagues, I'm guessing that at least one of them thinks that you've got it all together, that you are way more organized, productive, and you find it so much easier than reality is. And so imagine if you told them that. If you told them that it's okay to make mistakes, to have to rework, to have to figure things out. And more importantly, when that happens, to ask for help, to ask somebody who's been there what to do instead of putting the head down and burying yourself in Google or AI or whatever it is on your own, struggling to find the answer. Because if we're going to be working in hybrid, remote and distributed models in the long term, we have to look at how we learn and develop both ourselves and our colleagues. And I'm telling you, you can play a part in this. You can help somebody else have a better work day. All you have to do is have that conversation. Okay, that's it from me for this episode. I hope you find it helpful. Until next time, stay well and have a better work day.